I don't think I've ever been good enough in that respect to manage England. I think I mean, I think they got carried away, the FA, with names. You get carried away. There was a period where names got jobs in every the high level, and it was fashionable. And then a few years later, it was fashionable for the young managers to come, the ones with the old books writing down on the bench during games. I mean, what are they writing, for heaven's sake? For a shopping list? Must get this at Tesco's, for heaven's sake. And then it came back to the old campaigners, the experienced lads, your Wengers, Fergusons and Redknapps, and it came double all the way back round. It was fashionable. And I suppose it goes like that, really. England, the last few years, I must admit, I'd rather watch Coronation Street than watch England play. It's not done anything for me at all. Well, I was disappointed when I was younger that Clough didn't get the job. I would have loved to have seen how players responded to Brian Clough. I know, I know that Brian was difficult at times, and the FA councillors. If you've met the FA councillors, it's like being at a referees meeting. You know, I would imagine, or a traffic warden meeting, or something exciting like that. They're pretty much of muchness, and Brian Clough would have changed too many things, I would imagine. But I would love to, like this time, no disrespect to Roy, I would have loved to have seen Harry manage England, just because of the way Harry is. I think Harry looks to win games and wouldn't bother about, can handle players and wouldn't bother about reputations and things. But I think Roy goes out not to lose games, which I think is a different outlook on the game. But I think Roy, I think he's a wonderful person. But personally, I would have loved to have seen Harry have a go, and other than that, I don't enjoy watching England at any level, really, because we complain about it, but it's our own doer. We've sold our soul, haven't we, for money, the Premier League, so we have to accept that. We get all the best players in the world coming over either for money, nothing else, and by doing that, we jeopardise the kids coming through. It's you just can't have it both ways. The under 21s aren't going to get the players coming through now or get the games at the Premiership level that you should be doing at these other countries, unless we change the rules, and we have to change the rules if we want the England team to be successful. We have to have a minimum of English players playing in the first 11s in the Premier League. That's the only way around it. And when you look at the countries like Germany now, or all of a sudden people are being aware of, but they've been working on this for a few years now, getting the youngsters involved. And when they had a disaster, I can't remember which tournament it was, but they sat around the table and said, right, this is what we're going to do now. We're going to go into the youth system. We're all going to put money into a pot. We're going to get every club producing the kids. And that's what they've done. And it needs something drastic like that in England. Well, I think management in general, there's not many last that long, because management in general, if you look at the tenure of a championship manager, it's 1 year, 4 months. If you take Wenger out of the equation, Alan Pardew's the longest serving manager, and I just thought he took over last year, mate. So we can't. Life is changing, everything's changing. The media, you guys, there's so many phone-in programs now. There's so many. Tweeting and social media on the agenda. All of a sudden, everybody's an expert. Everybody knows better than the manager, and unfortunately, a lot of people in football, new owners that are not used to football, they get influenced by people. And when you get chairman and people talking to fans on the tweets and things, then it's dangerous because it comes back to haunt you. That you can't have a conversation with a fan if you're a chairman of a club without getting into trouble. It's difficult really at the moment because there's been one or two mentioned that I'm aware of, people like Robert Page and Keith Curle. Robert Page was a centre half of me, super character. I can't praise him high enough for the way he is. Curley was one of the best coaches I've ever had, and knows what Sheffield United, both of them. Chris Morgan, who's there, is a fabulous lad, and he's got to start somewhere. And if finances are difficult, which I'm told they are, any of those people I think could run the job. And you know, there's been one or two outside names mentioned as well. But I think they're trying to run the ship now on only spending what they're earning, and it's a difficult job for somebody, because it's a difficult job, but it's a fabulous job. I mean, really, if you were a young manager, you'd do it for nothing. When you drive in that car park and see the club, and when you experience the Cop in full song and what, it's a hell of a job. And I'm sure, I hope somebody takes it on board. I can remember driving into that place the first time I got that job, and the only time I got the job, and looking around, and got out of the car and just couldn't believe that I was manager of this club at last. It was a fabulous feeling. Not really. I think Brian's he's a big fan's favourite as well. I don't know Brian like the other lads. I've met Brian on a number of occasions, and I know I've seen quite a bit of him coaching abroad. And I heard him say that he's got to go abroad because he couldn't get a job in England, sort of thing. And I don't think it's anything to do with the colour of his skin or anything like that. I think, you know, there's been a lot made of that lately, which, you know, I think if he's good enough, you know, you get a job. And I think Brian's done the right thing by going abroad and serving his apprenticeship in that respect. So I think the lads you mentioned, any of those lads, I think if they haven't got a lot of money and they are going down the road of self-sufficient sort of thing, then I think it's got to be somebody that cares, somebody that knows the inside of the club, somebody that's, you know, as enthusiastic as what I was when I first come in the club. Because, you know, you have to work harder when you've got nothing, or you've not got as much as you should have. And all the players you've mentioned, the people you've mentioned, I think would all do a really good job. Well, everybody would say Chelsea, you know. I went down twice and got stuck on the motorway for 3 hours when it just started, the M25. And that wasn't me, that. But in those days, I thought if you went below Watford, it was the pits. It was the end of the world. You know, it wasn't until I went to Palace and realised how fantastic London. I wouldn't have been out of London if I'd have known how good London was. I would have had all my career in London. I lived at Richmond when I was at QPR. What? You know, cycling around Richmond Park, talking to Deane. Yeah, you know, absolutely times I'll never ever swap. So, you know, they've all had great times in that respect. And I'm talking now, I even forgot what the original question was. I was very close to Sunderland, but I didn't want to step on Malcolm Crosby's, who I'd played with. He was a temporary manager there. I remember saying to Bob Murray, who wanted me to go immediately, let's wait till they get knocked out of the cup and I'll come. That's sod's law, isn't it? Fate. They got to the cup final. That's how lucky I am. So I do believe in fate. So I never quite got to Sunderland. Wolves a few times I've read. The club I wanted to manage from really when I was younger was Burnley. I love Burnley because I went there as a kid, and I saw there, you know, my hero Ronnie Simpson at Sheffield United scored 2 crackers against Burnley one night in the Bob Lord stand. It was fabulous, and I love the colour. I love that colour, West Ham's colour as well, you know. So I always wanted to manage them, but I went for an interview once at Burnley, but never quite got there. You know, I passed a manager going out of the car park at the same time. I didn't think I'd have much chance. And Norwich, I went for an interview there, and but there's been a few. You know, West Ham at one stage. I would have loved to manage West Ham as well. As much as the problems I had with Tevez, I've got quite a few friends and people that I trust that are West Ham diehards, go every week in, week out. So, you know, there's quite a lot of clubs I wish I could, you know. Ironically enough, now I'm packing in and not managing, could probably have one of the best clubs I've ever had in the next few months, you know, because they'll come up. Because I don't see that many managers around, not good managers. So, you know, it's probably the wife might let me out sort of January time till March time and be a red Adair. I'll be able to go and save a club or take a club up or what have you, and she might let me have a couple of months a year doing that. Well, I think you've got to say that progression is, you know, the money that we brought into we can't have it always. The money is, you know, we haven't got enough people in England. You know, when you look at Dave Whelan and Ken Wright, who have been in the paper this week, Bill would love to sell his club to the right person. Dave Whelan's put millions into Wigan. Nobody else would have put the money that Dave Whelan's put into there. And there aren't the people in England. You know, I live in Plymouth, and Plymouth's a massive club. But can you get anybody to put money in there? You know, James Brent's doing a wonderful job down there. But, you know, it's they have to come from abroad. And unfortunately, when they come from abroad, they don't know much about the English game, etc. Majority of people, it's business, unless it's a hobby. So you get different types of ownerships, you know. So I think you need those people to come in to put the money into the club. But it's, you know, they're not all guaranteed success, I'm afraid. It's, you know, at the end of the day, I look at the Championship last year and I look at the teams who went down. You've got Wolves relegated. You've got Blackburn, who could have got relegated. And you've got Bolton, who, if they hadn't had a fantastic run, might have been relegated, even though they nearly got in the playoffs. And they had all the parachute payments. They were the three wealthiest clubs in the league. And did they get up? No. So who's to say QPR? You know, I know what Harry's saying, because Harry knows what he's doing, and it's a hard league. So, no, the club's coming down. It's not going to be straightforward for them. And whilst it's difficult, I think it's what makes English football the best in the world, because you don't get anywhere else where the second division gets crowds like we do. And that's what the Championship is. And now you've got a Premiership that, I mean, I'm from the outside, but I'm so looking forward to the battles that lie ahead with, you know, Mourinho, Jose, you've got Moisey, you've got Pellegrino, you know, who's obviously just spent 50 million and he's not even been appointed.
Holloway's back.
And you've got Ian Holloway at the other end, not thinking where the first point's going to come from at the moment. But you know, it's a great league this year, and with Wenger having to spend money at last. You know, hopefully, we've all been telling him to buy a goalie, a centre half, and a centre forward for 10 years, it seems. Hopefully, he'll get them this year, and he'll have a good go, because they've got some good players. So it is a really exciting time, I think, ahead in all the leagues. You know,